Welcome and good morning and welcome to Kansas City, to the American Royal, to our 32nd annual barbecue contest, the world's largest. We call it the World Series of Barbecue. We've got a delightful, brisk, but very pleasant September morning, and we're welcoming over 500 barbecue teams here on our premises today. 505 teams to be precise. Who will all be competing for a little over $100,000 in prize money. Of those 507 teams, I believe about 140 are participants in our Invitational, which we consider to be the championship of championships here. And obviously we have some of the best barbecue and barbecuers in the world here. We'll have about 480 so we expect to be turning in the open contest. So it's going to be a big, wonderful weekend here in Kansas City. We're just on the cusp of it, looking forward to getting started. People are completing their setups. Barbecue, of course, has a deep and long history here in Kansas City. We're parochial, maybe chauvinistic about our barbecue. We think we do a good job and one of the best jobs in the nation, and the American Royal is proud to be the host of this contest. This contest has become one of our signature events since it first began as a very small affair in a parking lot here on the premises of the Golden Ox some 32 years ago. So it's come a long ways in a long time, and it's a very important event for the American Royal. It is our largest publicly attended event. Tonight we'll welcome 30 to 35,000 of our best friends through these gates to come down and enjoy the ambiance of the barbecue contest. And tomorrow on Saturday, it's a little bit quieter day, but we'll still have 5,000 to 10,000 people. So it's a big weekend for us. For the American Royal as an overall entity, this is one of 30-some events that we do over 3 months in the fall of the year. We celebrate agriculture, our agrarian history, our culture. We like to think we perpetuate agrarian values. Our mission at the end of the day revolves around youth, education, and scholarship. And in fact, a lot of the net proceeds from this contest will go to our scholarship and education programs. Each year we have about a $5 million budget overall for the American Royal. We like to say that almost $2 million, $1.7 million of that goes to youth, education, scholarship, competitive learning experiences, and so forth. Into scholarship programs directly, about $70,000. And our winners range from the young lady who's going to be present tonight, who we're presenting a scholarship check, who is with the Kansas City Art Design Institute and designed the artwork for all of our logo and our barbecue artwork for the weekend. So that will be a neat thing. We give 6 $2,500 scholarships to area college students, outstanding area college students, typically from Missouri or Kansas. In a broader sense, our scholarships range from as small as $500, who sometimes go to clients of therapeutic writing centers, to our most visible scholarships, the $2,500 ones. In between there, we're giving scholarships to livestock exhibitors who happen to win a class or do something outstanding, and for many, many other reasons. But the American Royal, in the course of the 30-some events we do during the fall, even though the barbecue has come to be our biggest and our signature event, our heritage and our roots really lie with livestock and equine events. And during September and October, we host a whole series of horse shows, quarter horse, Arabian. Coming up here in 2 weeks will be the Hunter Jumper Show. We'll close out our season in November with the Saddlebred Show, UPHA American Royal National Championship. It's a very, very significant event. In the middle of October, we'll have 10 days of livestock shows. We'll have about 2,500 head of the nation's best cattle on the premises for 10 days. So those are kind of our core activities. We also do a little bit in the area of what we call Western entertainment. We have a PRCA Gold Tour Rodeo. That's the most elite category of rodeo. There's only 9 of them in the country. We are one of those. That will take place this year, October 27, 28, 29, here in Kansas City at Sprint Center. We've already secured our talent. We're proud to announce that Reba McEntire will be our headliner for the post-rodeo concert on Saturday night, Leonard Skinnard on Friday night, and prominent Texas musician Pat Green on Thursday night. So that kind of outlines the whole array of the American Royal, the season, and a little bit of the context for which the barbecue is such an important part of. Yes. When I spoke earlier about our purpose, education, scholarship, and competitive learning experiences, it's hard to overemphasize that that is, at the end of the day, what we're all about. In addition, for the Kansas City region, we are a significant economic engine, a homegrown economic engine down here in the West Bottoms of Kansas City in the old livestock district. With the help of our barbecue and our other ticketed events, we'll attract 270,000 people during the course of our season, and we'll contribute about $1.5 million in economic impact to this area. So it's a very, very significant activity for Kansas City, and it's an icon of this area. This is our 112th year, and we hope to be doing it for another 112.
I'm Will Cleaver with Operation Barbecue Relief. We're here at the American Royal 2011. Operation Barbecue Relief started off with the tornadoes in Joplin. Since then, we've actually started a nonprofit as OperationBarbecueRelief.org. Today we're down here at the American Royal, like I said. We've got several of the founding members here, as well as other people that were key to our success down there. We got Jeff Stith, Stan Hayes, Nathan Hayes, Lee Keith, Mark Matthews, John Tupper, Jaron Tupper, and Frank Cox back here.
I got you. Keep going.
What we're trying to do this weekend is to raise awareness about Operation Barbecue Relief. We're trying to get out to as many team members as possible and build our database of teams across the country so that if there are disasters in different parts or regions of the country, we're able to respond to those like we were in Joplin. A good example of that was we have Jim Nepper out in Pennsylvania. He's heading up the East Coast area, was out feeding people after the floods here 2 weeks ago. Some of the things back here, we have some of our sponsors that were nice enough to donate pounds and pounds of spices and rubs. Sam's Club was donating over 1,000 pounds of meat a day out in Joplin. We had things from Wonder Bread, from different companies in Joplin, donating chips, water, Gatorades, anything and everything that we needed. We want to put a big thank you out to Farmers Insurance, who let us set up next to them up on 7th and Rangeline, as well as the restaurants in the area that at the time let us set up in their parking lots as well. We started off with Jeff and Stan on Monday morning talking about is there anything we can do to help out in the tornado victims. They got together, created Operation Barbecue Relief for Joplin on Facebook. From there it just took off. It literally went from 3 or 4 likes up over 1,500 likes within 48 hours. We had teams coming in from all over the country to help out. At any given time in the first part of the week, we had somewhere between 15 and 20 teams on site cooking. We were cooking around the clock. We had things from Southern Prides to custom smokers to 7 FEs running nonstop for 24 hours a day for 7 days a week. Hogzilla came up from Georgia? Tennessee, yes. Hogzilla is a smoker that I've never seen before. It's the only smoker I've ever seen that actually has crane hooks on the sides of it. He can cook over 400 butts at one time on this thing. He was telling us that after he gets done cooking, if he uses both smokers on it, it will produce about 300 gallons of grease. But he was nice enough to come up and bring that up. He actually started his own kind of fundraising once he heard we were in Joplin. Got the money together to actually transport that up to Joplin, and gave all of us who had been up for probably 3 days straight a night's sleep, and took over and cooked everything that we were cooking on 15 different smokers on one smoker overnight. What we noticed, one of the things that really impacted me about being down in Joplin was not only the people that we helped. Everybody says thank you for doing what you did. We all got more out of this than the people we helped. It was life-changing for each one of us in different ways. What really affected me was the families that would come up and just say thank you, the people that we met, the friends that we've made since then. Watching the first responders come up the first night, grab some food and go back to their cars, and by the third night they weren't only just coming by and getting food, but they were coming in and sitting down with us and talking. We kind of came to a spot of normalization for them where they were away from the disaster. It was things like that I think impacted each and every one of us throughout the entire week and a half we were all there. Our website is operationbarbecuerelief.org. As we have here on our banner, again, one of those things we're trying to do this weekend is gain awareness, hopefully raise some more money for it so we can continue going. Via the website or also on Facebook. Not only do we need financial contributions, but we really need more teams and smokers to register through our website so that we have a database of information that when a disaster strikes, we have a group of people we can call on to see if they can respond. And that's the biggest thing we're trying to get out of this weekend here at the Royal. The things to me in all this was the barbecue family that came together. People that we either have cooked against each other at different contests throughout the previous years, and people we'd never met from across the country. That really made an impact on each and every one of us, for showing up with coolers full of food to showing up with supplies that we may need. Other companies that I don't want to forget, and we've got a list of all the sponsors that helped out for Operation Barbecue Relief in Joplin. But OK Foods out of Arkansas came up with a lot of pre-cooked chicken. Without their help, they brought up about 50,000 pounds of chicken. Again, without their help, we wouldn't be able to provide all the meals we did. Our calculations are telling me somewhere between 120 and 130,000 meals were served over an 11-day period of time. It's one of those things that the original idea was thinking we could go out and serve 3,000 or 4,000 meals. To actually kind of look at the numbers and the amount of food that was cooked and see that how much we actually provided for, I think amazed each and every one of us. Throughout the week, we originally started off with we wanted to provide meals to the different shelters in the area. We had some barbecue teams that were there local, as well as judges that actually judge us on a week in and week out basis that came in and helped as well. But with this list, we were able to go out and touch base with them, find out what kind of meals they may need, and that's where we started from. But the first day we were there and on site, we were approached by the Salvation Army and asked if we could help supplement meals as they were waiting on their supply lines to come in. That increased us to around 10,000 meals a day just for that. We had a team from one of the restaurants that was closed down come in and help, and literally had a food line set up where we were going through and building individual boxes of food and sent out over 2,000 individual trays of food in the Salvation Army trucks. From there, we started to do kind of an outreach program where rather than just having people come to us, we were loading up cars and trucks with Cambros full of food, water, ice, anything they may need. From there, we were going in and going actually out into the neighborhoods. We're fortunate enough that some of the people that were actually directly affected by the tornadoes had wanted to come back and help their own communities. So they were going out with our group of people that didn't know the area and showing them the different areas that were hit and affected, and taking food into those areas and literally walking meals up to people that really, I would say it was too much dignity, didn't want to ask for help, didn't want the handout. If you ask them, hey, we've got meals, do you need anything? They would turn it down, but yet if you walk it up, we had Frank Schaefer tell us that don't ask, just walk up there with 4 trays of food and set it on the front porch. And sure enough, we'd do that and get another house down, and they would sit down and start eating. One of the wonderful things about barbecue is that it seems to kind of everybody bring you that kind of warm, fuzzy feeling. It's a good meal, feels good in your stomach, you'd sit around and talk about it, and it seemed like everybody just kind of would relax for a few seconds, would get away from reality of what all they've lost, what all they're going through, and what challenges they have in front of them. It was a life-changing experience for me. And one of the things we're also looking forward to is that we're planning on doing a non-KCBS cook-off as an annual cook-off there in Joplin. We're trying to coordinate that with Sam's Club as well as the parking lot where we're set up at. Have the teams that were out there helping come back up, have some of the different sponsors come out and judge it, and do another fundraiser for Joplin. We had looked at doing a fundraiser right away within 3 or 4 weeks after the tornado hit, and talking with the Red Cross and the Salvation Army and even the community within Joplin. It was deemed that really they had enough help coming in at that point that really where we could be more beneficial is to come back in a year later to help kind of continue the push of getting donations and to help finish things off or get things continue moving forward. So one of the competitors came up with the idea of why don't we have a cook-off against ourselves, something fun to take a negative memory and hopefully put a positive memory on top of it. So it looks like it'll be a lot of fun. We probably are going to open it up to some teams, not sure how many yet. We're still working on a location. But we're going to try to do some wild card categories, so there won't be the typical chicken, ribs, pork, and brisket. So we're really looking forward to that, to get back together and see everybody and to see the community and how it's changed.
My nose, my hands, and my palate. I accept my duty to be an official 32nd Annual American Royal World Series of Barbecue Judge, sides, and desserts. Truth, justice, excellence in desserts and sides. In the American way of life, may be strengthened and preserved forever. Have fun, folks.
Got you.
What do you got? Need some help?
No. Gotcha ribs. We're there.
Good. Got good color on them.
Oh, look at that one. Oh, baby. Yeah. Oh, baby.
Money rack right there.
Yep, I'm trying to get it to go up the sidewalls. One side's got that on it, and I can discard it. Have a paper towel over there, David. For me, for my hands, wipe these pieces off. I think I need small ones down that middle, don't you?
Yeah, that'll be a middle. This will be a middle. And no, that's too wide. I thought you were running the bones this way.
No, we're gonna run them side to side.
Okay. This one's too narrow.
got your parcel ready to go.
Yep.
All right, let's pick out some of your best ones here. Do what we got to do.
Okay. This one.
You might want to move that bag.
Yeah.
Clean it out. That's what they put the tote bag.
Because of the corner. Who's that?
Corner. Turn it around like that. Or the other way. Like this.
That way, yes, that way.
Little piece of rib stuff.
All right, Dave, turn the pan around.
Okay.
Pick it up, go all the way around with it. Right there. There you go, right there.
Okay,
That one?
Yep. That one in the middle?
Right here.
Right.
That one. Spin it
yeah.
around and give him that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, that one.
I think I like the other way.
Other way?
Get a small saucepan. Put about a cup or so of water in it.
This one up in the corner.
Just eyeball it.
Which one?
This one. That one's too weird right
bottle
there.
water.
I was going to stick it down though. You think it's going to be fine?
Yeah. Yep. Put this in.
Yeah.
Over.
That's what I'm looking at. I'm just looking at getting an eyeball. All right.
Yeah, just roughly a cup or so. And then eyeball.
Looks good. Fill in with your parsley now.
Eyeball.
Wipe it down.
Okay, my assessment of this this was a very good category. I got to compliment all of them. I hate to say it, but I had 4 of them I thought that were fantastic. 1, 3, 4, and 5. But number 2 and 6 were very close behind, but I gave my best scores to those 4. As I said, this is probably one of the best competitions I've seen on the chickens that I've ever judged.
I think they were all good. Some of them was a little better than others. I think the first one might have been just a little on the dry side. Could have used a little bit more taste. The second one was just a little on the tough side and could have used more taste. The third one was tender and had better taste. The fourth one was very tender and had a good taste. The fifth one had too much sauce and I didn't care for the taste. And the sixth one was very tender and I had a really good taste to it.
I know now why they call this the Super Bowl barbecues. Outstanding. A lot of 9s across. The first one was superb. I don't think they could do it better. The first 3 were all 9s, very good texture, flavor, very juicy. Number 4 looked better than it actually tasted. I didn't have a whole lot of flavor for that one for me. Number 5 had a lot of Blue Hog sauce on it. It was hard to taste a whole lot besides a Blue Hog. And number 6 was also very, very good. So.
These are all very good, and what I expected to be here at the Invitational. I thought number 1 could not have been any better. I gave it a perfect score all the way across. The skin came off perfectly, it was tender, it was juicy, it looked great in the box. The second one that I tried was a little bit dry, but it was still very good. I thought it was above average, I mean way above average, and very, very good, but not excellent. The third one, when I bit through it, I couldn't bite through the skin, and so I marked them down on tenderness. I like the taste, but I couldn't get through the skin and have a big flap that's still left. The fourth sample I thought was very good, but it was a little bit tough, and I'm really being picky here, but the flavor was really good. The fifth sample was too heavily sauced for me. I thought it looked bad in the box. You could tell where people had either smudged it or put their fingers on it, and it came across that way in tasting it. I thought that it wasn't bad. I mean, I thought it was very good, but it wasn't what I consider excellent. And the last one was a little dry. And I downscored it for being dry and just a little bit tough. But again, it was very good.
The first one for me was a little bit hot, I thought, but a little bit overdone, I thought. Number 2 had not a lot of flavor to it. The tenderness was really good. I liked the third one the best. It had good flavor. The skin was real good. On my number 4, it was very juicy, but it was a little bit spicy. And number 5 was also had very good tenderness, but it was really hot. I thought a little too hot for me. And my number 6 had a good flavor, but it was pretty dry.
Yes, for me, number 1, the chicken was extremely tender. It was slightly spicy, but of all the 6 pieces, I felt that number 1 was the best of the 6. Number 2 was not as tender. It was just a little bit tougher, and it had a slight off taste. I don't know. You can't always identify what each taste is. Number 3, he had a problem with the tenderness. That was not a tender piece of chicken, and it was extremely, extremely spicy. Very hot, actually. Number 4, nice tender skin, a little bit tough in the meat, and it had a very nice chicken taste, very good chicken flavor. Number 5 was of average tenderness. The sauce on it had a very, very poor taste to it. His sauce needs an awful lot of work. Number 6 was average in tenderness, but the meat itself was very dry, not nice and juicy as it should be.
These 4 in the back?
Yeah. Put it on the hay bale, good sunlight there.
Very pretty.
And then those maybe rotate like this and then up and over.
What are you going to do, 7?
What do you think, Phil?
You're doing 7 or 8?
Rotate it. 7.
No, you don't. Yeah, you want the bone down. You want that bone down.
Yeah, turn it.
Do we have time? Do we have time to trim that or no? Turn it around.
I have to show. Here, heavy.
These were the 3 pretty ones?
Bone's bad.
Well, yeah, but a piece of parsley will cover that. Get a piece of parsley. You want any parsley out?
I think our parsley's gone. We just got what's in the box.
1 I thought was overcooked. 2 was overcooked and entirely too much sauce. And I thought it was the meat was rather bland. Number 3, again, it was overcooked. It was entirely too sweet, and they'd left the membrane on. And 4 was very greasy, just and not a whole lot of flavor. I thought 5 was well cooked, and you could taste the meat. Nothing really special. And then 6 was too salty and way overcooked.
Well, at my age, my memory is not that great, but I did not find anything really outstanding. Number 6, the lady is right on. There were several pieces that I figure were overcooked because they almost had a splintery to them. The meat was almost little splinters, and a couple of them pulled all the way off the bone. I really can't rank them as which one I like the best, really, I don't think.
I think I've got to pass. I turned mine in. I thought in general they were okay. It seems like we're going way overboard on sauces, though. And number 2, especially, the sauce just dripped off as I tried to eat it. I prefer to taste the meat rather than the sauce. And as my 2 compatriots have already said, a couple of them are overdone. So.
Oh, my turn? Well, I really liked the first one. Really nice and tender, and the texture was awesome, and the flavor was good, and it looked good in the box. It was wonderful. The second one, it fell off the bone, which supposedly makes it a little bit overcooked, but I still thought it was very tender, and I didn't think it had as much flavor as I would have liked, but overall I liked it real well. The third one was tough and overcooked and not much flavor at all. This one, the fourth one, had a real tough, dry, the bark was dry and hard, and the meat was tough, but it had good flavor. I liked the flavor to that one. The fifth one had some kind of a chemically taste, almost like a lighter charcoal fluid taste or something, and I don't know if that's a wood flavor or a spice or whatever, but I don't like it. And it was very tough. The last one was the toughest of all. Couldn't get it off the bone. And it was very dry. And it didn't taste well seasoned at all. It was my least favorite of all of them.
I thought number 1 had a really nice sweet taste to it, and the tenderness was just about perfect. Number 2 was a little on the dry side. It had a good flavor. Number 3 I thought was tough. I really didn't much care for the flavor of it. And number 4, it was also tough, and it just really didn't have any flavor, I didn't think. The number 5, I liked the flavor of it. It had kind of a wood taste to it, wood smoke taste to it. And number 6, it was a little bit on the dry, tough side, but it didn't have too good a flavor. So I would score my favorite was either number 1 or number 5.
Well, I thought number 1 tasted good, but texture-wise it was mushy to me. It didn't have a real meat texture to it. Number 2, while the texture was there, the flavor wasn't so much there for me. Number 3 I liked overall. Number 4, I can't remember. It's been too long. Number 5 was my favorite in terms of flavor, but my least favorite in terms of texture. And number 6 I thought had good flavor but tough texture. So a real array of.
I don't have to put that much.
We're good now.
You don't want that part in there. Or that part. Yeah. Or this part. Or this part. First one? Yeah, you want that. From this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's our lucky number today. Yep.
¿Va a cerrar, güey?
¿La otra, compadre? Sácale ahí abajo.
Sí, sale.
De volado. Sácale más. ¿Ya? Very good. Okay.
All right. Just like to say that I like a real barbecue taste. I don't care for some of the spices that are put on sometimes. I like just a good smoked flavor. And this one right over here, it definitely had that. It had a good smoked flavor. So I thought it was very good. All of them had great appearances. They all looked real nice. I scored high on all the appearances. They looked great. That's about it. You want somebody else?
The number 4 contestant had nice bark. The seasoning was very nice. And number 6 was very nicely balanced between the smoke and the spices. Tasted like really good pork should taste.
Entry number 4 felt the spices on the pork were overpowering and really kind of covered up everything else. Same way on the entry number 5, felt like the spices there just covered everything up. And then the tenderness on entry number 3 and then number 6 I thought were great.
Yeah, entry 3 and 6 were kind of overdone. Entry 4 had really nice smoke flavor to it with some seasonings. 5 was almost a little overpowering with some of the seasonings.
My favorite was number 4. Had a really good smoke flavor. It tasted like the way I think pork should be. The rest of them I didn't care for. I didn't care for any of the other 5. 3 and 6 were mushy, overcooked, but none of them really had a good smoke flavor. And it seems like these competitors are concentrating more on a sweet, nasty sauce than concentrating on the flavor of the meat.
I think 4 is my favorite also. It was very smoky, maybe a little overdone, but it didn't detract from the taste. Number 5 was kind of a mystery to me. It was so spiced that the meat was lost. And then 3, on my sample, 3 and 6 were overdone, overcooked. So
maybe it's their mechanism for being safe that kicks in, you know? Yeah, he done got to shake it. Like this. He couldn't even get a hold of the sheets because there was so many people around him. He was breaking up. Bless his heart.
Some people can't handle crowds well.
No, I don't like a crowd. I don't. And I don't, you know, I might have done the same thing. Yeah, la la la. La la la. I'll take it. La la.
Come on, la la la. Let's put that brisket in the box.
You'll take the box. I want you to take the box, and I'll go with you. All right. I want you to see all those people. I'll do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you know when you're looking back, because when you're looking through there, you can see stuff. Because I'll take a picture. You know?
Okay. When you take a picture and stuff, you can see things that you don't.
Number 1 was good in all aspects. I gave it 9s across the board. Number 2 was excellent in all. I gave it 9s across the board. Number 3 was excellent. I gave it 9s all across the board. The thing that stood out on that, it had a really good beefy flavor, more so than any of the other ones that I had. Number 4, it was tough. It was tough to pull apart. Flavor wasn't too bad, but it was a little bit less than the others that I had. Number 5 was excellent. I gave it 9s all across the board. Number 6 was the toughest of all. It was like a piece of leather. I gave it a 6. Probably should have given it a 4 or 5 in retrospect. Flavor wasn't bad, but it was just average.
Number 1 was probably the most tender brisket I may have ever eaten, and was also pretty good flavor. Not excellent, but very good. Number 2 was a little more bland as far as flavor, but was also very tender. Number 3 was easy to pull apart and had excellent flavor. Probably was my favorite, was number 3. Number 4, I could barely get it picked up with the fork because it was that tough. When I tried to pull it apart, it was also very tough to pull apart, and the flavor was just okay. It was kind of bland. Number 5 was very good in most aspects. I thought it was tender and the flavor was good. Number 6 was almost too tough to pull apart. In fact, I pulled and then I pulled again, and I know that by the 3rd time it was almost ridiculous. And the flavor was not very good.
Okay, number 1, I thought had great flavor and was really tender. Number 2, I would like to have seen more of the fat trimmed from that, but it had a good flavor and was fairly tender. Number 3 was tender, had a nice appearance in the box. Number 4 was definitely very dry and tough and hard to pull apart when I did the pull test. Number 5 had a really good flavor and was really, really tender. And number 6 definitely had too much sauce on it for my taste and was tough and not very tender. I'm one who likes to have less sauce on my meat and more dry rub lots of times.
Number 1 was probably the most tender one I have tasted today. Number 2 and 3 had good flavor and were had equal tenderness. Number 4 was dry and tough. Flavor was okay. Number 5 was probably the best one I tasted today as well. Had consistent tenderness and taste. And number 6, I enjoyed the flavor, but it was tough and not necessarily dry, but tough to pull apart.
Number 1 kind of fell apart as I was taking it out of the container, so not great texture there. Flavor was good. 2 had good flavor, also A little easy to pull apart, a little crumbly. 3, same deal, good flavor, kind of crumbly, came apart easy. Number 4, real dry. Real dry, that was a standout. Number 5, just about perfect texture, real moist, came apart nice, decent flavor, probably the best of the bunch. And then number 6, excellent flavor, but oh boy, it was tough. It was real tough to get it apart.
Number 1 fell apart real easy and was probably a little overcooked. It had good flavor, however. Number 2 was it seemed to be a poor cut of meat, or at least needed more fat trimmed off of it. It was not as tender as it should have been. Number 3 was almost perfect in the tenderness category. Flavor was good, but not outstanding. The 4th one was not, it was as tender as it should have been and was dry. And the flavor was okay. Nothing great, but nothing bad about it. The 5th one was well cooked. It was tender and had decent flavor. The 6th one was a little bit tougher, but had good flavor.
I'm Fast Eddie, and we're at the 2011 American Royal Barbecue Contest. And a little bit about me: I started cooking barbecue in 1986 was the first time, and it was actually right here at the American Royal behind this building with about 40 other teams, and cooked under a team name called Dudes Barbecue. And that was kind of the start of my passion in the barbecue industry. Helped one of my dad's neighbors build a smoker. And back in the day, if you had a smoker that was on wheels, you were really somebody different, even in Kansas City. So about 1990, this is why barbecues become so big of a sport, is that teams break off and make teams. And I was getting a little bit irritated with the group I was cooking with, as Dudes Barbecue was our team name. And I broke off and became Fast Eddie's. Everybody called me Fast Eddie. And the reason why Fast Eddie's got that name is because I've always been hell on wheels from the time I was about 2 years old. So I love my race cars, and I'm a huge motorsports fan on top of that. I desert race presently is what I do. But I seen the Traeger pellet grill in 1990. Had a gentleman show it to me, and me and my dad were repairing kitchen equipment in Kansas City, and I worked on a lot of the commercial smokers here in town. And so I had a big background in how those things operated, and the metal work that was in them especially. And after cooking on these pellets for a couple years on just like backyard grills, I said there needed to be something more done with this to make it more efficient, get it in this other form, and really take use of this type of fuel that I really think is going to be the biggest thing coming in barbecue. So I went ahead and used the Traeger feed system and their grills. I would buy new grills and cut them up and then remanufacture them to make them into what today is one of my popular units called the FEC 100. The FEC 100 has won all the major events in barbecue other than Memphis in May. We never did spend a lot of time down in that organization, but it's won here at the Royal, it's won at the Jack, it's won the Houston Livestock Rodeo. It's been a big blessing in my life. In 1998, kind of actually how the story goes, in 1994 is when I redesigned the unit to work for me, and in 98 I was getting pushed real hard by some other competitors. They wanted to buy what I had. So I made a conscious decision that I'll go ahead and might give this a little try and build a few of those things. So I did, and the commitment I made when I did that, as I was going to teach the customer to be as successful as I was. Back in the day, many a time, 50% of the time that I went to a contest, I'd win the brisket category, which would help pay the way, because when you're a city fireman, you didn't quite have the salary to go out and spend $700–800 a week to go cook a contest if you couldn't win something back. So '98 is when I sold the first cooker, and in 2000, in my metal shop, I quit doing anything other than barbecue equipment. And in 2002, I hooked up with a company called Cook Shack out of Ponca City, Oklahoma, now manufactures my product line. And I have 5 commercial smokers on the market today and 2 backyard grills now that are on the marketplace. And we're aggressively, besides I also have a commercial fire charbroiler on the market too. So anyway, that's the Fast Eddie story, kind of the short and skinny of it. And I want to thank Mark for coming by and giving me an opportunity to tell the story on Barbecue TV.
Hi everyone, I'm Nikki Reeser with Reeser's Fine Foods, and we are here at the American Royal, the world's largest barbecue competition. We are excited to be supportive of these barbecue teams and help them with some pairings for their great barbecue meat dishes. Check us out on reesers.com and go to your local grocery store and find some of our great pasta salads, potato salads, and coleslaw. Hey everyone, Nikki Reeser here with Reeser's Fine Foods, and we are at the American Royal Barbecue in Kansas City. I've stopped by to Big Woody's Barbecue. We're going to check out some great pork ribs and Reeser's potato salad. Here we have some delicious pork ribs, and what goes best with that? Potato salad. We have some mustard potato salad from Reeser's Fine Foods. It goes great because the sharpness of the mustard pairs really well in the strong flavors of the pork and the smoked ribs. All right, everyone, here we have some Reeser's coleslaw. We talk about perfect pairings here. We have some pulled pork, a bun, and some Reeser's coleslaw, and put a little bit of pulled pork on the sandwich. And the acidity in the coleslaw cuts a little bit of the pork flavor, so it's great. Can be used for a side or on a sandwich. Lots of uses here. And it's got delicious flavor. Lacey's making up a great sandwich for us. We'll take a nice little bite. Yeah, that looks really good. Yummy. Very good.
Kitchen, and we'll be doing candied chicken. My name is Mike. I'm his assistant and all.